It was interesting. We spoke with FanDuel CEO Matthew King earlier this week as well, and he said similar comments to what you've been saying, that we're only in the first inning of this. What makes you think that we're only really in the first inning?
Well, Matt's a very smart guy, so if he says it, it must be true. But I really think it's really a function of the fact that so many states have just recently legalized this. To put it in perspective, start of last NFL season, we were live in 2 states with sports betting, New Jersey and West Virginia, and right now we're in 10. And there's several more that we hope will become available in the coming year, and hopefully many more will pass legislation in Q1 and Q2. And right now, I think, given that it's so early in the industry, the growth numbers we're seeing, we don't expect them to slow down anytime soon. And of course, that's dependent on continued progress on the state legislative front. But even states like New Jersey, which just entered its 3rd NFL season for us, is still growing triple digits year over year.
Yeah, there's a long-term story here, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. But I want to get a little bit to the short-term story here right now, Jason, which is the resurgence in COVID cases. And of course, your business is tethered to professional sports or just sports in general. We've seen the resumption of pretty much every league that matters out there right now. Are you worried at all that we could see any sort of curtailment in the play in those leagues over the next few months?
Well, certainly we hope that sports are able to continue being played. I think the leagues have done a great job planning and put a lot of great safety measures in place. So we're confident that there's a lot of really smart people working on it. But, to some extent, this is out of everybody's control. And we don't really worry too much about it. We're extraordinarily well capitalized. I think in some ways, if you see a sports hiatus again, it might actually encourage more states to pass legalization of iGaming, which is another very lucrative category for us. So, there could be some silver linings to it. Obviously, it's not a good thing for the country, though. And certainly from a revenue standpoint, we're very dependent on sports being played. So that's something we're keeping an eye on.
You have interesting insight into the psyche of the consumer at this point. Where are they in terms of willing to gamble, willing to bet, even as we talk about, of course, rising cases and unemployment?
Well, what's interesting is that a lot of discretionary entertainment spend that people were, putting into the market on things like hospitality, travel, has all gone away or at least been significantly reduced. So there, could be anywhere, I've seen estimates of hundreds of billions of displaced entertainment spend looking for a home. So, while there may be some, overall headwinds on the economic and unemployment side, that's still a lot of extra, entertainment spend out there. And people are bored, they're home, they're watching sports. And, we think that that's a very good setup for us.
What's sort of the growth story then here? Longer term, you obviously have a pretty good base here. There is a lot of competition. Is the idea here that you kind of stick, I guess, in your current lane that you're in, or are there plans to maybe, broaden out the platform a little bit more? What's the future?
Well, iGaming has been a really interesting new expansion point for us over the last couple years. That's exploded over the last year, especially during COVID when a lot of sports were on hiatus, and it hasn't slowed down even with NFL and NBA and everything else returning. We also have looked at, expanding into the content side. We have a very small but growing media business that we're building. And, beyond that, I think really we're going to focus on our core. You might see us add other products that we know our customers like. But, other than that, I think we'll focus on our core for now.
Talk to us more about that competition, because analysts are excited about future growth, but also know that as you start to think about more states legalizing this, that competition is inherent. How do you fight them off?
Well, first of all, I think we're at a stage right now in the industry where competition is actually a really good thing. It's going to help us build the market faster. Another important aspect of this is that, the market is going to, in the industry, will be in large part, very dependent on the government regulations and laws that are passed, and having multiple, great companies that are all, really thoughtful and collaborative together on how we build this market, how we get the right laws and regulations in place, does help us present a consistent case to legislators on how we think this ought to be set up. And that's a very helpful thing. So at this stage, I think it's a really good thing. And, the market's growing quickly enough that many companies should be able to do well and succeed. And somewhere down the road, I think some will fall out. There will probably be some consolidation. But right now, I think competition is a very good thing, and it certainly hasn't slowed our growth down. We've actually seen increased growth over the last 6 to 12 months as more competition is entered.
Yeah, you may not know this, Jason, but while we're here, of course, talking markets, on our Bloomberg radio station here in New York, we're live broadcasting the Masters for some reason, giving everyone a day off. I assume that you have to be in tune with this. I mean, DraftKings, of course, had that deal. Of course, what type of activity are you seeing around this golf tournament and I guess the general outlook for it?
Well, you know, the Masters was never in November before this year, so we were all very interested to see how it would go. The course certainly looks different with the foliage and all, but you know, this has been by far our biggest Masters ever, even on a like-for-like basis. So if you control for new states and just say, look at New Jersey. New Jersey saw a 181% increase in handle on the Masters this year, betting handle. Our daily fantasy sports business is way up. I think it's actually helping that there's so many people active on the platform due to NFL and other sports. And you know, we've invested a lot in our cross-sell engine, which is driven by data science, and I think that's really, you know, something that's helped us cross a lot of those players over. And in general, that's what we see. I got similar questions on iGaming. iGaming spiked big in Q2 when there were no sports, and a lot of people asked me, you know, what is that going to look like? Is it going to go down when the NFL came back? And it actually went up. And we've consistently seen that now with the Masters as well, that when we have more actives being generated through, you know, very casual mainstream sports like NFL, it does lead to everything else going up as well.